Title: Coffee Cups and Quarter-Life Crises.
Chapter 1, Lost in Translation. Maddie Russo's alarm went off at precisely 7:30 a.m., which was funny because Maddie hadn't been up before noon since her high school days, when her mom would literally yank the covers off her. This morning, however,
The alarm, an upbeat yet grating ukulele tune, served a purpose. Today was apartment day.
"Guys, this is it! We're going to find the dream apartment. I can feel it," Maddie announced to her roommates, Lila, the aspiring actress, and Jordan, the guy who somehow always smelled like Doritos but never ate them. The three of them had decided, over one too many margaritas at Tacos and Tequila, that their tiny studio on the edge of downtown was no longer livable. Maddie needed more closet space. Lila needed a room that didn't double as the kitchen. And Jordan, well, Jordan was just there for the ride. If by dream apartment you mean one without rats doing the cha-cha above my head at 3 a.m., then sure, I'm on board, Lila said, sipping coffee from a mug that read World's Okayest Roommate. Jordan emerged from his corner of the studio, wearing pajama pants emblazoned with sloths holding martini glasses. "I'm good with anything as long as there's a spot for my gaming setup. I'm about to hit diamond rank in Rocket League, and the Wi-Fi here is killing my vibe." Maddie grabbed a clipboard she'd bought just for the occasion, complete with a checklist. No rats. More than one bathroom. Preferably under 200 per person. "All right, troops," she said, standing at the door like a frazzled general. "Let's move out." The first apartment was in a building called the Oaks, which was ironic because there wasn't a single tree in sight.
The listing had boasted charming character, but upon arrival,
they realized character meant a staircase that slanted at a 45-degree angle, and a bathroom so small you could shower while sitting on the toilet.
"It's got potential," Maddie ventured, trying to sound optimistic. "Potential to be condemned," Lila muttered, nudging a suspiciously stained carpet with her boot. Jordan, however, was already testing the Wi-Fi. "Hey, the connection's decent. I'm getting like 80 Mbps.
"Jordan, there's a hole in the ceiling."
"But 80 Mbps, Maddie."
Chapter 2, The Craigslist Curse. By mid-afternoon, the trio had seen 6 apartments, each worse than the last. One had a balcony that looked like it would collapse if you sneezed too hard. Another featured a friendly resident feline, which turned out to be an unreasonably aggressive raccoon. Spirits were low.
"Let's just admit it," Lila said, flopping onto a bench outside their 5th overpriced nightmare.
"We're destined to die in that shoebox of a studio."
"We can't give up," Maddie insisted. "There's got to be something better out there."
Jordan scrolled through Craigslist on his phone, squinting at the screen. "Here's one. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's only $100 each.
Says it has a unique feature in the living room."
"That sounds promising," Maddie said, already Googling the address. "Wait, no, hold on. It's that building." Lila raised an eyebrow. "What's that building?"
"You know, the one where they filmed that documentary? The one about the haunted ventriloquist dummy?"
Jordan's eyes lit up. "We have to check it out." Chapter 3, Haunted or Just Ugly.
The building was as creepy as Maddie had described. It loomed over the street like an architectural middle finger, its faded facade adorned with gargoyles that looked more tired than terrifying. The landlord, a wiry man named Stan, greeted them in the lobby. "She's got good bones," Stan said, patting the nearest wall. Dust cascaded down in a dramatic puff. The unique feature turned out to be a mural of clowns painted across the living room wall. They were all mid-laugh, their eyes glinting as though they knew your deepest, darkest secrets. "I'm out," Lila declared, spinning on her heel. "Absolutely not. I'd rather sleep in my car."
Jordan, however, stood transfixed. "I mean, it's kind of cool, like in a retro horror kind of way."
"Jordan, no," Maddie said firmly. "If we move in here, we'll end up in a BuzzFeed Unsolved episode." But as they left the building, Maddie couldn't shake the feeling that one of the clowns had winked at her.
Chapter 4, moving on, sort of.
They finally found an apartment that ticked most of the boxes. A sunny 3-bedroom with a balcony, located above a charming cafe. Sure. The rent was slightly over budget, and the water pressure was less than ideal, but it felt like home.
"We're doing it," Maddie declared as they signed the lease. "Goodbye, Studio of Sadness."
On moving day, Jordan set up his gaming station in record time. Lila practiced her audition monologues on the balcony, and Maddie finally unpacked her collection of houseplants, which immediately began to wilt in protest of their new environment. "This is it," Maddie said, collapsing onto their brand new IKEA couch. "The start of something great."
And for the first time in months, she actually believed it.
Even if the apartment did come with a mysterious stain on the ceiling that no one could explain.
Chapter 5, Brunch, Bylines, and Bad Decisions.
Sunday brunch at the Toasted Bagel was a sacred ritual for the trio, even before they moved into their new place.
It was where all their big ideas, and most of their terrible ones, were born. This Sunday, Maddie was nursing a cold brew the size of her head while flipping through a local magazine. "Guys, listen to this," she said, reading aloud. "The 5 most haunted buildings in the city. Number 3 is our new apartment building." Jordan looked up from his plate of avocado toast, unimpressed. "So what? Every old building is haunted. It's like a rite of passage." "Rite of passage or not, I'm not okay with ghosts stealing my spotlight," Lila said. "I'm auditioning for Hamilton next week, and I need good vibes only." Maddie pointed at the article. "It says tenants have reported strange noises, flickering lights, and a faint smell of popcorn in the middle of the night." "Popcorn?" Jordan perked up. "Now we're talking." Lila groaned. "Why couldn't we just pick the boring apartment with the raccoon? At least it didn't have popcorn ghosts." "It's probably just old wiring," Maddie said, trying to sound logical. "Or Stan microwaving snacks at weird hours." Still, when Maddie got home that night and found a single unpopped kernel on her kitchen counter, she couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. Chapter 6. Popcorn, Plumbers, and Paranormal Activity. The first event happened 3 days later. Maddie was in the kitchen attempting to make avocado toast that didn't look like sad guacamole when the faucet suddenly sputtered, coughed, and started spewing what could only be described as popcorn-scented mist. "Jordan!" she yelled, backing away from the sink like it was possessed. Jordan appeared in the doorway, holding his gaming headset. "What's up?" Maddie gestured frantically at the faucet. "Explain this." Jordan sniffed the air. "Huh, smells like movie night. Cool." "Not cool," Maddie snapped. "It's weird. Fix it." "Do I look like a plumber?" Jordan asked, raising an eyebrow. "Call Stan." Stan arrived an hour later, toolbox in hand, and an expression that screamed, "I don't get paid enough for this." He fiddled with the faucet, grunted a few times, and finally declared, "Well, it ain't the pipes." "Then what is it?" Maddie demanded. Stan shrugged. "Old buildings do weird stuff. Maybe the ghosts like snacks." Jordan's face lit up. "I knew it! Popcorn ghosts!" Lila, who had been eavesdropping from the hallway, threw her hands up. "That's it. I'm buying sage and an exorcism kit." Chapter 7. Unpopped Kernels of Truth. 2 nights later, Maddie was jolted awake by a loud clunk from the kitchen, heart pounding. She crept down the hall, armed with a tennis racket she'd borrowed from Lila. She flipped on the light and found nothing, except for a single unpopped kernel in the middle of the floor. "You've got to be kidding me," she whispered. She picked up the kernel and placed it on the counter next to 2 others she'd found earlier that week. They seemed to be multiplying. The next morning, she confronted her roommates. "All right, which one of you is messing with me?" Jordan looked genuinely offended. "Why would I waste perfectly good popcorn?" Lila shook her head. "I have an audition to prep for. Do I look like I have time to sprinkle kernels around the apartment?" "Then it's the ghosts," Maddie said firmly, holding up the trio of kernels like damning evidence. Jordan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "If it is ghosts, they're not very scary. Like, ooh, unpopped popcorn, terrifying." "Maybe they're trying to send us a message," Lila suggested. "Something about unfinished business." Jordan snorted. "More like unfinished snacks." Chapter 8. Midnight Movie Madness. The trio decided to hold an experiment to test their theory. That Friday night, they gathered in the living room, armed with a bowl of freshly popped popcorn, a Ouija board Jordan had ordered online, and a complete lack of better judgment. "Okay, this is either genius or the start of every horror movie ever," Maddie said, setting the bowl on the coffee table. "It's called science," Jordan said, lighting a candle. "We're investigating." "If something touches me, I'm out," Lila said, clutching a sage stick like a lifeline. They placed their hands on the planchette and Jordan spoke first. "Are there any popcorn-loving ghosts in this apartment?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the planchette jerked under their fingers. Maddie yelped, and Lila nearly dropped the sage stick. "The board spelled out more salt." "You've got to be kidding me," Maddie groaned. "We're being haunted by a ghost with snack preferences." Jordan grinned. "This is awesome. We should totally invite it to movie night." Lila glared at him. "Or we could find an exorcist." Chapter 9. The Popcorn Ultimatum. The next morning, Maddie woke up to an unusual scene in the living room. The Ouija board, now smeared with butter stains, had been placed upright against the TV stand, and next to it was an expertly folded napkin spelling out the words, "Movie night or else." Maddie called an emergency meeting. "Guys, I think the ghost has taken a liking to us, or at least to our Netflix account." Lila squinted at the napkin. "You're telling me Casper the Hungry Ghost made this? With what hands?" Jordan leaned in, inspecting the craftsmanship. "I mean, it's kind of impressive. That's some restaurant-grade folding." Maddie crossed her arms. "What are we supposed to do? We can't just give in to a ghost's demands." Jordan shrugged. "It's not like it's asking for much.
Popcorn, a little salt, maybe a rom-com or two. This is basically a low-maintenance haunting.
Lila threw up her hands. What if it escalates? Today it's popcorn. Tomorrow it's demanding we watch Sharknado 6 on loop.
But as they debated, the lights flickered, and the faint smell of freshly popped corn wafted through the room.
All right, Maddie relented, grabbing the remote. One movie night, that's it. But this doesn't mean we're letting it take over our lives.
Chapter 10. The Spirits Picks. By 8 p.m., the trio had assembled their snacks and nervously turned on the TV. Maddie flipped through the streaming options, muttering to herself.
Does it even have a preference? How do we pick? As if on cue, the Ouija board's planchette slid across the board, spelling out classic.
Jordan's eyes lit up. Ghostbusters it is.
The first few minutes passed uneventfully, save for the occasional flickering of the lights.
But by the time Bill Murray delivered his first sarcastic line, the room was filled with an unmistakable sense of satisfaction. The smell of popcorn grew stronger, and the mysterious stain on the ceiling seemed to glow faintly, almost like it was pulsing with approval.
Is it enjoying this? Lila whispered, her eyes darting nervously toward the stain.
Maddie shrugged. At least it has good taste. Halfway through the movie, Jordan paused it. All right, so I've been thinking, what if this ghost isn't haunting us? What if it's just lonely?
You want to befriend it? Maddie asked incredulously.
What are we supposed to do, invite it to brunch?
Jordan gestured toward the glowing stain. I mean, look at it. It's not malicious.
It's just vibing.
Lila rolled her eyes. Great. We've got the Casper of popcorn spirits.
Chapter 11. Popcorn Diplomacy. The following days were surprisingly peaceful. The ghost seemed content after movie night, with no additional unpopped kernels mysteriously appearing.
Jordan began referring to it as Pop, much to Maddie's annoyance, and even Lila started leaving extra sage sticks around, just in case. But things took a turn when Maddie found a sticky note on the fridge one morning. Written in buttery smudges were the words, "Next week, horror marathon." She stormed into the living room, holding the note like a ransom letter. All right, this has gone too far. Pop is getting a little too comfortable.
Jordan grinned. I'm in.
Let's start with The Shining. Lila shook her head furiously. Nope.
If this ghost is real, and it's looking like it is, I'm not about to give it ideas.
But despite Lila's protests, movie night became a regular occurrence. Maddie and Jordan took turns picking films, while Lila begrudgingly joined in.
Though always with a sage stick nearby. And slowly the trio began to notice something. The apartment felt warmer, more inviting.
Even the ominous stain seemed to fade slightly, as if the ghost was, in its own strange way, saying thank you.
Chapter 12. Popcorn Politics.
It didn't take long for Pop's presence to evolve from a quirky apartment oddity to an undeniable part of their routine.
Maddie had expected her life to get simpler after moving into a nicer place. But she hadn't banked on living with an ethereal cinephile who had a growing knack for passive-aggressive communication. One Sunday morning, the trio found the coffee table completely cleared off, except for a handwritten list on a butter-smeared napkin. It read, 1. Better snacks, nachos. 2. Stop pausing mid-movie.
3. Comedy night mandatory.
Jordan burst out laughing.
It's official. Pop is a full-blown roommate now.
Great, Lila grumbled, flopping onto the couch. A ghost who criticizes my snack choices. What's next? It's going to demand a Spotify playlist? As if on cue, Maddie's phone buzzed with a notification from an unknown number. The message read, Cinematic Jams, a playlist by Pop, and included a link.
I'm deleting my phone, Maddie said flatly.
Chapter 13. The Nacho Negotiations. Determined to regain some control, Maddie decided to set boundaries. She left a note on the Ouija board.
Dear Pop, we appreciate your input, but this is still our apartment. Maybe tone it down with the snack demands. Thanks.
The reply came swiftly. That night, the lights flickered incessantly during their movie, and an ominous pile of unpopped kernels appeared in Jordan's gaming chair.
Okay, this is war, Maddie declared, hands on her hips. We're not letting a ghost hold us hostage over nachos.
Jordan, ever the diplomat, had other ideas.
Maybe it's about compromise? We get nachos for next movie night, and Pop chills with the hauntings. You want us to bribe it with queso? Lila asked, incredulous.
It's worth a shot, Jordan said, already Googling recipes.
Chapter 14. Comedy Chaos.
The following Friday, they held their first comedy night in honor of Pop's demands. Maddie had borrowed a small projector from work, and they turned the living room into a makeshift theater, complete with nachos and a popcorn machine Jordan had impulsively bought. Pop seemed pleased. The lights stayed steady, and the buttery aroma in the air felt more celebratory than menacing. But midway through Airplane, The projector inexplicably switched to an old silent film featuring a ghostly figure juggling. Jordan looked at the screen wide-eyed. Pop's got jokes. The trio burst into laughter, realizing the absurdity of the situation.
Lila threw a handful of popcorn at the stain on the ceiling.
All right,
Pop!
you win this round. Chapter 15, The Roommate Agreement. By now, Pop was fully integrated into their lives. They even began referring to it when making plans.
Should we do Die Hard or Elf for Christmas movie night? Maddie asked one evening.
Jordan tilted his head. What do you think, Pop? The Ouija board planchette moved slightly, spelling out Elf.
I knew it was a Will Ferrell fan,
Lila muttered.
Maddie sighed.
All right, Elf it is. But if it starts asking for ugly Christmas sweaters, I'm out. Chapter 16, Pop Goes the Legacy.
Months later, as the lease renewal date approached, Maddie started to worry. What if they had to leave Pop behind?
Do ghosts even travel? She asked during a group brainstorming session. Lila shrugged.
Maybe we leave a forwarding address?
Jordan grinned. Or a Netflix login.
When the day of reckoning came, the trio gathered for one final movie night. They watched Casper, an unspoken tribute to their spectral companion.
As the credits rolled, the stain on the ceiling glowed faintly one last time before fading away completely. The room felt eerily quiet.
Do you think it moved on? Maddie whispered.
Jordan nodded solemnly. Popcorn ghost? No, Pop. Will always be part of our story. Lila rolled her eyes but smiled. Rest in snacks, Pop.
The end? Or is it?